So I'm going to read the book Finding Winnie to you. And on the screen, you should see who Winnie is. Winnie is Winnie the Pooh. The things that make me different are the things that make me me. All right. So here is the story. This is the true story of the world's most famous bear. Finding Winnie. There's Winnie up there. Could you tell me a story? Asked Cole. It's awfully late. It was long past dark and time to be asleep. What kind of story? You know, a true story. One about a bear. We cuddled up close. I'll do my best, I said. A very long time ago, about 100 years before you were born, there was a veterinarian who lived in Winnipeg. His name was Henry Colburn. A vegetarian, said Cole. Bear doesn't like vegetables. A vegetarian, it means a veterinarian, sorry. It means an animal doctor. I know that, Cole said. That's what I'm going to be. Maybe, when I'm big. If a horse had the hiccups or a cow had a cough, Harry knew how to make them feel just right. Harry's hands were never cold, even in Winnipeg, where winters are so frosty that icicles grow on the insides of your nose. It was just the kind of doctor that he was. But a day came when Harry had to say goodbye to Winnipeg. There was a war far, far away, beyond the end of the country and on the other side of the ocean, and he was going to help. He would be caring for the soldiers' horses. Harry rode east on a train full of other soldiers. He leaned his head against the window, watching the land scroll by, wondering what it would be like to be so far from home. The train rolled right through dinner and over the sunset around 10 o'clock and into a nap and out the next day until it stopped at a place called White River. Harry decided to stretch his legs. On the train platform was a man on a bench with a baby. A baby? Said Cole, annoyed. A baby bear. A cub. Harry stopped. It's not every day that you see a bear cub at a train station. That bear has lost its mother, he thought, and that man must be the trapper who got her. What do trappers do? Asked Cole. It's what trappers don't do. They don't raise bears. Raise them? You know, I said, love them. Harry thought for a long time. Then he said to himself, there is something special about that bear. He felt inside of his pocket and said, I shouldn't. He paced back and forth and said, I can't. Then his heart made up his mind. And he walked up to that trapper and said, I'll give you $20 for that bear. Is $20 a lot? Asked Cole. Back then, I said, even more than a lot. Captain Colburn, said the colonel on the train as the little bear sniffed at his knees. We are going on a journey of 1,000 miles, heading into the thicket of battle, and you propose to bring this most dangerous creature? Bear stood straight up on her hind legs as if to salute the colonel. The colonel stopped speaking at once, and then, in a quite different voice, he said, Oh, hello. The men of Harry's regiment squeezed by to have a look. I've decided to name her Winnipeg, Harry told them, so we'll never be far from home. Winnie, for short. Now you know how Winnie got her name, or his name. In this case, it was a her. They had a very long way to travel, and they had already gone 3 or 4 feet they had only gone 3 or 4 feet when Winnie grew hungry. What do bears eat? The men wondered. What don't they eat? Said Harry. Vegetables, Cole reminded me. Winnie ate vegetables, I said. She ate everything except onions. They brought her carrots and potatoes and apples and tomatoes and eggs and beans and bread and a tin of fish and some slop in a dish. We read about slop in class. But Winnie was still hungry. How about dessert? Said Harry, holding up a bottle of condensed milk. Taking the treat in her paws, Winnie lay on her back and hummed a happy song as she drank. The men roared. I think that means they laughed really hard, not they roared like a lion. Harry and Winnie gathered with soldiers from all over Canada in the green fields of Valcartier. A whole city of tents had sprung up there. One was a hospital for horses, where Harry went to work. Winnie was in the army now. Harry taught her to stand up straight and hold her head high and turn this way and that, just so. Soon she was assigned her own post. Even the colonel agreed that Winnie was a remarkable bear. She might have been the best navigator in the whole army. If you hid something, could she find it? She could. What if it was farther away and farther still? Remarkable, he cried. You see her following that path going around all the tents? In the evenings, both of them were too tired to move. When Harry thought about Winnie and the voyage across the ocean, his head said, I shouldn't. His head said, I can't. But, again, his heart made up his mind. Nobody had ever tried to float so many people and animals across the Atlantic Ocean before. 30 ships sailed together, carrying about 36,000 men and 7,500 horses, and about 1 bear named Winnie. When they finally arrived in England, the regiment went to training on the Salisbury Plain, where it rained and rained and rained. That's what it's doing right now behind me. But Winnie didn't seem to mind. She was the mascot of the 2nd Canadian Infantry Brigade, and she attended her post with vigor. One day, Harry came running while she was doing her exercises in the tent. You'll bring the whole place down, he said with a laugh. She had grown. It was winter when the order came that the time had come to fight. Winnie posed proudly with the men for the pictures to send home to their families. Harry thought for a long time. His head argued one way and then the other, but his heart made up his mind. He went to Winnie and said in a serious way, There's somewhere we need to go. Winnie brushed the mud off her nose and nuzzled up close. Harry drove all the way to the big city. Look at her fur flying in the wind. Here we are, said Harry, the London Zoo. Harry took a deep breath. Winnie, this is going to be your home for a while, he said. She tilted her head. "We're shipping out to France," he explained, "and I have to take care of the horses at the front." She rested her big head against him. "I know you want to come, but it's not safe." Winnie's head bowed. Harry's hands were warm as sunshine as usual. "There is something you must always remember," Harry said. "It's the most important thing, really. Even if we're apart, I'll always love you. You'll always be my bear." Is that the end? "That's the end of Harry and Winnie's story," I said. "But I don't want it to be over," said Cole. "Sometimes," I said, "you have to let one story end so that the next one can begin." "How do you know when that will happen?" "You don't," I said, "which is why you should always carry on." Once upon a time, there was a little boy with a stuffed bear. He'd had his bear ever since he was a baby, but somehow the boy had never found the right name for him. He'd tried Teddy and Edward and even Big Bear. One day, the boy went to visit the London Zoo with his father, and there was a bear, a real bear, on the terraces there. Who do you think that bear is? Right away, the boy thought, there is something special about that bear. Her name was Winnie. They became true friends. The boy was allowed to come right inside her enclosure to play. Ooh, wow. Once the boy had found Winnie, he knew just what to call his stuffed bear. He named it, are you ready for it? Winnie the Pooh. And the boy was called Cole? Said Cole. I don't think so. If you've ever read a book or watched a show about Winnie the Pooh, you can probably tell what the name of that boy was. His name was Christopher Robin Milne. Christopher Robin would visit Winnie at the zoo, and then he would take his stuffed animal on all sorts of adventures in the woods behind his home. His father, Alan Alexander Milne, wrote books all about them. Harry's Winnie became Winnie the Pooh, and there has never been a more beloved bear. But what about Harry? Cole asked. Well, when Harry visited Winnie at the zoo, he saw how happy she was. She was being raised. She was truly loved. And that was all that he had ever wanted from the moment they met at the train station in White River. So, after the war, Harry returned to Winnipeg and his life as an animal doctor. Before long, he was married and he had a son named Fred. And Fred then had a daughter named Lorraine, and Lorraine had a daughter named Lindsay, which is me. That's the author of the book. And then I had a son. When I saw you, I thought, there's something special about this boy. So I named you after your great-great-great-grandfather. Sorry, I added an extra great. Captain Harry Colburn. I named you Cole, and it shows you over here the family tree. Harry and his son Fred, and Fred grew up and had Lorraine, and Lorraine grew up and had Lindsay, and Lindsay grew up and had Cole, and that's who she's talking to in this whole story. That's me, Cole said in a whisper. That's you. And that's Winnie? Yes, I said that's Winnie. And it's all true? Sometimes the best stories are, I said. Cole's eyes grew big, and he said nothing for a long time. And then he hugged his own bear close and let out a yawn that reached far away. And they both turned over and fell asleep. And then the author is going to share some pictures with you because this is a real story. So this is an actual photograph of Harry as a young soldier. And Harry kept diaries throughout World War I. This was the diary from 1914. That's over 100 years ago. That's the first year of the war. And this is a diary page from the day that Harry found Winnie. On August 24th, right here, it's kind of hard to read, but he wrote, bought a bear, let me see if you can see it, for $20. It's hard, but there's the 20 right there. Whoops, sorry. And here are 3 soldiers, and there's the real Winnie the Pooh. And here's Winnie and Harry with what appears to be, what does it say? A laugh and a snack. Aww. And then here's that photograph of Harry and the soldiers, and their mascot right there is Winnie. And then over here, this is a picture of Winnie and Harry that inspired the statue that now stands in Winnipeg and in London. So this statue is in Winnipeg, Canada, and in London. And here is the statue in Winnipeg that was unveiled in 1992. And here's the last pictures. So this is the real life Winnie and the real life Christopher Robin. And Christopher Robin's dad is the one who wrote the Winnie the Pooh books. It says this was in 1925 at the zoo after they had become friends. Christopher Robin's A.A. Milne watches them play from above. How special is that? And then it says, this is the official animal record card that shows Winnie began her stay at the London Zoo in December of 1914. Black bear. So the real Winnie the Pooh was a black bear. And then the last picture is the author who wrote this book and her son Cole, who she wrote it for in 2013. I hope you enjoyed that book, and I hope you are enjoying your summer. I love you and I miss you.